So you're moving to Newport News, Virginia. Maybe you're excited about it, maybe you're not. Well, in today's video, we're going to cover all the reasons you are not going to like living in Newport News. So stick around and we'll get right to it. My name's David Tortellini, and every single day I help people just like you buy and sell property here in Newport News and the surrounding area. So subscribe to this channel for more great content on all of Hampton Roads, and then when you're ready, give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. My team and I are here and we would love to help you out with your next purchase. I want to start just by saying that I do think that Newport News and all of Hampton Roads is really a great place to live. There's a lot to like about here, like access to beaches, being close to the mountains. You know, there's a lot of really good things going on here. But if you are moving here and you've never been here before, there's going to be a bit of a culture shock, and there's going to be just adjustments that you need to make, and you're definitely going to find things that you don't like about living here. This is far from perfect, and so I just think that for anybody who's from somewhere else, and maybe there are places that you love about where you live, it's just not going to be the same here. And there are certainly some things in Newport News that you are going to have to adjust to, or at least just be prepared for, because that's really what I want for you, is for when you get here, for your expectations to be set, and for you to not think that certain things are going to be a way that they really are not. So let's dive right into it. Let's start talking about some things about Newport News that you may really not like. All right, let's start with the weather. Wow, okay, so this is kind of a big topic because here in southeastern Virginia, you are going to experience all four seasons. You'll get summer, fall, winter, and spring. And let's just start with talking about summers. Okay, summers here, if you like heat and humidity, this is a great place for you. But for most people, it is too hot and it is too humid, particularly in July and August. Really, I'd say once we get through the July 4th holiday, after that, people really start to stay inside a lot because the heat, it's regularly in the low to mid 90s, and the humidity is crazy here. Like, I grew up in New England, and the summers there are obviously nothing like they are here. But just knowing that when I started my career, I used to be dressed like this in a suit, kind of in a go show property, and I would be soaked through my clothes while I was out showing houses. I'm at the point now where I wear mostly dry fit t-shirts and shorts out on showings in the summer because it's too hot and the humidity is crazy. Women who like to do their hair really nicely in the summer, I'm so sorry. It's going to be ruined by lunchtime. If you're lucky, maybe by the time you even get to work in the morning. And it can just be brutal. So the summers here, knowing that they start pretty early, and by May, our April, May, June is great. Like, that's great. We'll talk about that in a sec, but just these hot, humid summers, you have to be prepared. As great as knowing that our summers start a little earlier if you're coming from up north, that's great. And if you've never experienced humidity, if you're from southern Texas or New Mexico or Nevada, and you have, Nevada, and you've never experienced humidity like this, you have to be ready because it hits you, and it hits you hard. All right, so that's our summer. Let's go to fall. So our fall is gorgeous here. So, the humidity tends to really go away in September, and in September you're looking at temperatures in like the 80s. It's beautiful. And then October and November are usually really nice too. This year happened to be pretty cold, so kind of missed out on November there. It wasn't too great, but normally October, November, beautiful here. Long sleeve shirt, hooded sweatshirt evenings type nights. It's great. And so fall is really the 3-month period here where you have the most opportunity to do everything. You can go to the beaches in September, then October, November, go out hiking, do a lot of really fun things because the weather is so great in the fall. But then you get to winter. Okay, great. So we get 3 great months. And then you get to bitterly cold winters. And it's weird because it's not that cold. It's not the temperature here might be in the 50s, but there's something about, I think it's all the humidity in the air, that when the cold hits that humid air, it chills you to the bones. So if you look at, the average temperature in January is like 47 degrees, which if you're from Maine or Minnesota, that's great. That's practically summer. But knowing just, it doesn't feel like that. It feels much, much colder. So you're going to have a lot of days in the winter where you think you're going to be ready for a long sleeve shirt, and you are going to be in 3 layers, just trying to keep that chilly kind of wet air out of your bones and out of your system. It's really takes some getting used to. Just be prepared, especially once the sun goes down, for the temperature to be extremely misleading on how it's going to feel. All right, that's going to bring you to spring. And so springs here are hit and miss. I mean, they are rainy. We get a ton of rain in March and April. I mean, just a ton of rain. So there are going to be sometimes, we've had a couple of springs where we haven't been able to go outdoors barely at all because it's just raining all the time. And it's great for the crops. I understand why someone why our founders would want to settle in the state. Everything turns green. Things grow like crazy here. Great for your garden. Terrible for going outside. Just a ton of rain in the spring. And so it's just something you need to be ready for. Take advantage of the days when it's not raining, because it's usually beautiful. But if you want to enjoy the weather, your opportunities fall. Summer, it gets too hot and humid. Spring can be really rainy. Winter, you hit or miss. You can get some great days, but then you're just going to get some bone-chilling cold that is just going to freak you out. So that is, one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle to adjust to here, especially if you're from someplace with more consistent weather. And that is going to be the weather here in southeastern Virginia. Now let's talk about something that's real estate related, and that's property taxes. So our real estate tax rate is $1.22 per $1,000 of assessed value. So that means that if you had a $300,000 house, you would spend about $3,660 on taxes every year. And the national median is about 90 cents per $1,000. So we're 32 cents higher than that. The way the math works out is you're going to spend just about $1,000 a year more than you would if you were in a median city with taxes of around 90 cents per $1,000. So that's pretty significant. That's $1,000 that you will never see again. You don't get it back when you sell the house. And so taxes are on the high side here. Now, they're not Massachusetts or New Hampshire, where they're over 2% in almost every town. But, at $1.22, it does put us at just about the highest rate in Hampton Roads. And there's a lot that obviously those taxes are paying for, because this is a city of about 185,000 people, but they are still on the high side. And if you're coming from a place where you're only used to paying 70 or 80 cents per thousand to come up to this $1.22, it's pretty tough. Now, there are some surrounding areas like York County, they're significantly less. They're right close to the national average, in fact, a little bit lower than that. And that's right nearby. And then Hampton is pretty much the same as Newport News. So this is kind of a high tax area. And so that's just something you're going to have to be able to account for in your payment for a new home. So if you're running some calculators online, one of the problems with most of those real estate calculators that you see on websites is that they don't include taxes or insurance. So when if you want to calculate in that tax, take your purchase price, even though that won't necessarily be the same as assessment, but you can just for a rough estimate, take that, multiply it by 0.0122, and that'll give you the amount of taxes that you're going to pay, and then you'll be able to factor in to your monthly payment how much you're also going to have for taxes. That way you can figure out what your real budget is. But yeah, it's really tough for people who are used to low tax states to come here and end up paying these fairly high taxes. Now, another thing that I hear people complain about a lot here are their allergies. One of the things about Newport News and Hampton Roads in general is that this is a very green, beautiful area with a ton of flowers, a lot of foliage, a lot of trees and shrubs and everything. And I mean, it is beautiful. But with that comes tons of pollen and ragweed and all of these things that just cause people's sinuses to go crazy and just cause a lot of health problems. Like, I recently had a client who moved from Newport News back to Minnesota because his allergies were so bad here that he could barely breathe. And so he went back to Minnesota, where it's just It's not the same as here, and he barely has any allergies, and he just felt healthier and happier there. So when you get here, just expect to stock up on that Allegra and Claritin or whatever, and just be ready. Now, I'm fortunate, for some reason, my allergies aren't too bad here. When I go back home to where I grew up in New Hampshire, they're way worse. So I don't know what the difference is, but so many people complain about allergies here, especially if you have kids. You're going to need to just be aware of how much they could be affected by that. And if you have any breathing problems, any sinus problems, things like that, these are things you just need to be ready for, because in this area, when the pollen hits, my gray car turns pure yellow, and it can be really, really bad. And so that's just another thing that is just frustrating about being here. The pollen, the allergies, can be pretty bad. It can be pretty gross. And, you're just going to have to be ready for that, because there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. It's just, it is what it is. As much of a city as Newport News is, there's a ton of green space here, and there's still plenty of trees, plenty of flowers, and it is very much a kind of place where if you have allergy problems, this could hit you really, really hard. You might want to talk to your doctor about it before you get here, but that is just one of those things that people complain about all the time. And, when you get here, just be ready for those sinuses to probably go crazy. Now, we can't talk about things you don't like about living here without talking about tunnel traffic. So all of Hampton Roads is really connected by a series of bridges and tunnels. And the two largest bridge tunnel systems are the HRBT and the Monitor Merrimack. HRBT is by far and away the highest volume area in the region, and that is going to connect basically the peninsula down to Norfolk and Virginia Beach. So Norfolk and Virginia Beach, combined population of around 700,000. So you're going to have a lot of people going back and getting down to like Norfolk Naval, things like that. Now, the issue being it's only 2 lanes. And so those 2 lanes just get clogged up so quickly. It's currently in the process of being expanded. That's probably not going to be done until 2026. So I'm not really willing to wait 3 or 4 years to not go down to Norfolk or Virginia Beach. So if you want to either live in Newport News and work on the south side, or you want to live on the south side and work in Newport News, be ready for the fact that you're going to deal with massive traffic problems. With only 2 lanes, just the natural amount of traffic clogs it up like crazy. And what happens is people go down into the tunnel, all right, and everybody kind of starts slowing down. And then when it goes back up, people just stop basically. And so on their way out, people just practically come to a stop, and it just causes the whole thing to get backed up for miles. So it's not uncommon, especially on like a Friday, to get, if you're coming from the south side to go back home to Newport News, to get caught in 5+ miles of just bumper to bumper traffic. And you should plan for an 1.5 to 2 hour commute home if that's the case. And it is awful. Why anybody would live in Newport News and work on the south side, please tell me you have a spouse who works in Williamsburg or Richmond, because it's a terrible idea in my opinion. But this tunnel traffic is awful, and people have to deal with it all the time. It's just part of our area. Now, the Monitor Merrimack has a lot less traffic, but all you need is a little fender bender to shut down 1 lane, and all of a sudden now you're backed up for miles. And so it can be really bad. And then you get into things like holiday seasons where you get a lot of tourists driving through, heading down maybe like the Outer Banks or something, or heading down to Virginia Beach, and the traffic can get really bad for that too. So it's super frustrating, because there's a lot of great fun things to do in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And then even if it's just a regular evening and you want to go down, if it's a Thursday evening and you want to go down for dinner in Norfolk, and it's normally it's only like a 35-minute drive during the middle of the day, but if you want to go for dinner, you need to be prepared for the fact that you could easily just sit in 45 minutes of traffic. And so a lot of times, if I have an appointment in Norfolk, if it's a 5 o'clock appointment, I may make the choice to go down and get there by, say, 3 p.m. so that I can just go work from a cafe or something and be down there, just to avoid the idea that I could get stuck and be late by 30, 40 minutes for my appointment if I just try and time it up like there's only going to be 10 minutes of traffic. At any point, it can go from 10 minutes of traffic to an hour of traffic. So Extremely frustrating. The tunnels stink. Everyone here hates them. They are part of life. Hopefully the expansion helps, and in a few years we're complaining a little bit less about the tunnels in Hampton Roads. The next complaint I hear, particularly among young people, is that there is absolutely no nightlife in Newport News. That is 100% true. This city shuts down by like 10 p.m. every night, even on the weekends. There are really no places to go dancing. There are no good clubs. I lived in Boston for 7 years, so I was in a big city where there were dozens of clubs. You could go out and stay out till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was awesome. Super fun when you're in your 20s. I'm in my 40s now. I would die if I tried to do that. But when young people move here, especially, you PCS to Fort Eustis, and you're thinking, all right, should be some clubs, fun things for young military members and shipyard workers and people to go party. There's nothing to do, to be honest. I mean, there are a couple places where you can go and stay out till midnight, like Manhattan's or something, but it's not a real club like you would get in a real city. Like, we don't have, as far as I know, a real club. And so it really kind of is boring late at night here. You may have to go to Norfolk or Virginia Beach to really go to a cool club, but now you're potentially an hour away from your home. That's kind of crazy. So, this is just something I hear all the time, and I totally get it. Newport News is very much a bedroom community. It's a city, but it is really just geared around single-family housing, and it is not geared for young people looking to party. There is not really anything to do here after 9 or 10 o'clock. You can go to a couple of, good little bars and restaurants, hang out till then, but really, once you hit that point, this place is, it's lights out. Everybody is in bed and getting up ready to go to work, and kids are going to school and all that kind of stuff. It's an unfortunate part. Even if you just go an hour north to Richmond, there's so much more to do at night, or go down to Norfolk, Virginia Beach. But, if you're looking for a place to live, if that is a priority for you, Newport News is just not going to have it. And that'll bring me straight into my next complaint. That is the food scene in Newport News stinks. I hate to say it, I really wish it was awesome, but it really just is not. There are only a handful of pretty good to really good restaurants in Newport News. The vast majority of the food scene here is chain restaurants. I mean, you can drive up and down Jefferson, which is the main kind of strip in Newport News, and it is chain after chain after chain. If you get over onto Warwick in the Hilton area, or a little bit up the road in kind of near CNU, Christopher Newport University, you can start to get some other options that are not chain. And then there are a few kind of scattered around the city a bit, a couple in City Center, but even City Center is mostly all chain now. But that's the issue, is that the food scene here, I mean, there is nothing worth driving from far away to go to in Newport News. Like, if you live in Norfolk or you live up in Richmond, you would never come to Newport News for food. Now, it's crazy because there are really great food options in Williamsburg, and there are amazing food options in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, and even Hampton has some really cool, fun restaurants in the Phoebus area and in downtown Hampton. Newport News, the Hilton Village area has a few cool restaurants like Circa 1918 and Kismet, and then I'm a huge fan of a restaurant called Schooners that's near CNU, but even that isn't something that you can't find other places. So the culinary scene here, not incredible. I mean, if you like Chick-fil-A, and who doesn't? But I mean, if you like your Chick-fil-A's, if you like, Cheddars and all that kind of stuff, and Red Robin, then you will love Newport News. But if the chain food scene isn't your thing, then you're kind of out of luck. We have enough chains that even some of our chains are pretty good. Like Bonefish is a phenomenal chain in my opinion for a chain. And there's one in Newport News, and it's great, and I love it. But at the end of the day, I'm not driving, several towns to go to that particular restaurant. I'm glad we have one here, and it's great. But, there are much better food places to live than in Newport News. And in fact, of the cities, Newport News might actually be the worst food city in Hampton Roads. And wrapped in with all those chain restaurants and strip malls, comes a lack of character and culture here. For a 400-year-old city, you would think that there would be a lot of culture that's just built into the dynamic here, but there really isn't. And that could just be a function of the fact that, as old as the city is, there aren't a lot of second, third, fourth generation people here. A lot of them come from military families and end up resettling somewhere else. And then, of course, there's a lot of people who are just here for 3 years, they're in the military, and they're going to leave. And so there really isn't a defining character to this city. There are some pockets, like I've mentioned, Hilton Village, that neighborhood has character, that has some culture to it. But that is just one small neighborhood in a town that's like 25 miles long. So, you really are looking, if you're coming from New York or Philadelphia or Boston, you can tell there's culture there. There's a lot going on, a lot of expression of personality. And then here in Newport News, there isn't. So you just, you drive up and down Jefferson and it's strip malls and big box stores and that's about it. And then you can get over to, Warwick, Christopher Newport University, the Hilton Village area. You can find some of it there, but it's such a small part of what the whole city is that you really, you get here and it is culturally bland. And I do hope that CNU expands over the years. It has grown like crazy just in the time that I've been here. So I'm hoping that eventually this city is defined as much by CNU as it is by anything else, and that really brings forth a sense of pride for the city. But, even though this is a military town, so you would think, oh, hey, this is a military town. Shouldn't that define the character and the culture? It's a big enough city with enough people who are not military that most military just kind of blend in, and you don't just show up to Newport News and go, oh, yeah, I'm in a military city, that's the culture. It's not like that at all. So you are in a situation here where just the history of this town has not come through, defining characteristics. Nothing has really coalesced here to make it, Newport News with a certain sense of character, and nothing that really makes you know that you're here and you're not in any other town in the United States. Next on our list, bugs. So spiders and mosquitoes. And so we've got this family of arachnids who are terrifying, and we've got these insects who want to kill us all. So let's start with those mosquitoes. They are terrible here. So there are summers where they aren't, but when they are bad, they are very bad, especially around dusk every night. So if you're outside and the sun starts to set, it gets a little lower than the trees, out they come and they will get you. And they're big and they're nasty. The mosquitoes here would eat the mosquitoes where I grew up that were teeny tiny. These guys are big and they are coming for you. And just know that no amount of off or anything else you put on can stop them. You can hold them back a bit, but when they get bad, they can get really, really bad. So if you're really sensitive to mosquitoes, if you're the type of person where if there's one within a mile, it's going to find you, then I highly recommend having some long sleeve clothes, long pants available even in the summer, or just stay inside from dusk until the sun actually goes down, because then they go away and the fireflies come out and it's great. But the mosquitoes here can be really, really bad, and it makes it so that you kind of can't go outside during dusk and at least just hang out. As long as you're moving, you're good. But if you want to just sit and read a book and just hang out outside, invest in a screened-in porch. That's the best thing I can say, because you are not going to want to deal with the mosquitoes in this area. Then we also have crazy spiders. So we have black widows, we have brown recluse, and then we just have all these other spiders. And had anyone told me that southeastern Virginia was known internationally for its spider population, I would not have moved here. I've since gotten better with spiders, but they were probably my number one arch nemesis my whole life, and they have creeped me out forever. Now, they are so abundant and so big here that you just kind of get used to them, especially around, you want to know why the spider is a prevalent part of Halloween. There are these huge kind of red, brownish spiders that come out in September and October that make huge webs, and they are disgusting if you are not a spider fan. So if you love spiders, maybe you'd love to live here. But if you had told me that this was spider country back when I was about to move here, I would have said no thanks, and I would have just kept going somewhere else. So spiders can be crazy here. That is the thing, though, with those black widows. Just know, like, they're not all over the place. I've probably seen 5 or 6 in the 12 years I've lived here. But, you know, one time I took apart an old garden bed, and there were 3 in there. I've had one just kind of hanging out under my grill. I had one in my garage. So you just do need to be aware of the fact that they exist. And if you do get a spider bite, that could be the possibility. So you need to know what to do. So spiders, mosquitoes, Newport News, it all goes together. Gosh, if those 2 things could go away, my life would be so much better. Okay, so let's get back to the housing. As a real estate agent, the biggest complaint I hear about the housing in Newport News is that it is old. And it is. So we really had 2 periods where the majority of the housing was built here in Newport News. The 60s and then the early 90s. So the 60s, you're really going to find homes that are the majority are going to be brick ranch style homes. And there is nothing wrong with those homes. They are great, but they are not modern at all. They lack the big closets, big, spacious primary bedrooms that are designed for king-size beds. If you're buying one of these brick ranchers in Newport News, you are most likely putting your bed up against a window of some sort because they were not designed for that. Closets are tough. These are homes that are generally between, 1,000 square feet and maybe 1,700 square feet, and you have to make compromises if that's going to be what you can afford in this town. Now, there are also a lot of bigger homes that are still old, where you're going to find neighborhoods with homes built in the 60s and 70s where, they are 2,400 square feet, 3,000 square feet, but you're still not going to get a lot of the things that you might find in a modern home. You might get a tiny, primary bathroom that's still en suite, but it might be, you're in it like this because it was designed in the 60s, and that's just how they did things. You still may be looking at like sliding doors for your master closets because that's just what they did back then. So if you're looking for the big walk-in, it's going to be really hard to find. And that's really frustrating for a lot of people who move here from places like Texas, where prices obviously in Texas are not what they used to be, but 10 years ago, you used to be able to get a really beautiful house, very inexpensively built in Texas. Now, then they come here and they're like, this is terrible compared to what I had. And I've had clients from like Arkansas where they want, 3-4 car garages. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, we don't have those because the houses were built in the 60s. So you're not going to find this modern construction. And then even your early 90s homes. So we have a lot of early 90s 2-story vinyl side homes that are really nice, but at this point they're 30 years old and they're starting to be quite dated. So we're hoping that people continue to modernize and update them. But when you go in and it's 30-year-old cabinets with gold fixtures everywhere and gold door handles, and not that cool modern gold, it's the old gold that nobody likes. So you're just running into these old homes where we have very few homes built after the year 2000 in Newport News. And that can be really difficult, and it's hard to adjust to that because then if you want to do new construction someplace, you end up someplace else that's either going to be really far away or it's going to be extremely expensive. Because if you do want to build new, you may have to go to Williamsburg or York County where the price points are much, much higher. Or you have to go really far away to Suffolk or Chesapeake, and that might mean that if you're at Fort Eustis, that might mean you're looking at an hour-plus commute every day. So these are the things you need to know about Newport News. Older housing, some of it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I've mentioned Hilton Village a few times in this neighborhood. Those homes were built in 1918 and 1919, so they're over 100 years old now, but they are absolutely gorgeous. But if you have like an 80-inch screen TV, if you have anything better than a 40-inch screen TV, there most likely will not be a place on the wall for it because they are not designed for television. So if you're looking for the big, wraparound couch, big TV type space, you really may not find it there, even as charming and beautiful as that neighborhood is. Roofs that go like this, and they're they're slate roofs, so you're going to get a lot of character. You're going to get some really good things with it, but if you are just looking for that modern type of home, Newport News can be a very challenging place to find a home. You really will have to compromise, and you're going to have to figure out exactly kind of what you're really looking for and what is important to you. You know, a lot of people are doing away with the formal living room. They'd rather have just one big great room. We don't have a lot of that. So we have maybe a couple of neighborhoods that offer that, but for the most part, that's not going to be a normal type of home to buy here. They are very segmented, you know, save up a little extra. Taking down walls right now is the best thing you can do for a home in Newport News, because that formal dining room, that formal living room, those are the things that have gone away, and we have them in abundance. So when you come and you start looking for a home here, just know that new construction is extremely limited, and that you are most likely going to be looking at a home that was built before the year 2000 and as early as 1918. So just know that is Newport News. That's the kind of housing that we have here. It can be frustrating, but you can also make it very, very beautiful. All right, well, that's my list of reasons why you are not gonna like living in Newport News. I'm sure if you asked around, we could add some more things to the list, but to be honest, I really do think that this is a great city to live in if you know what you're doing. If you take the time to learn about the city, learn about the places where you wanna go, where you wanna spend your free time, and just figure out how you wanna live in the city in a way that makes you happy. You can get a great house in a great neighborhood, do a lot of fun things, and have a great time and live a great life here in Newport News. But you're not going to do it if you just sit in your house or sit in your apartment and don't go out and make the effort to learn the city. So that's what I'm here for. Use me as a resource. If you are moving here and you're looking for something specific, please reach out anytime. I am definitely happy to help, give you some suggestions, let you know what my family and I like to do here in Newport News and the entire surrounding area. That all being said, my team and I are here, ready to help with your move to Newport News. So give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. We would love to help. In the meantime, if you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below and we'll reply to them as soon as possible. Also, check out the description. I'll put a few links in there that'll help make your move an easier and smoother one. And then before you leave, don't forget to like this video, share it with anyone else you know who may be making a move to the Newport News area, and then subscribe to this channel for other great videos on Newport News and the surrounding area. Again, my name is David Tortellini. Thank you so much for watching.